Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Community Charging Rebates information session. I'm going to give people a few minutes just to sign on. Okay, a couple more minutes and we'll get started. Okay, I think I'm going to just go ahead and start with introductions. My name is Brittany Breen. I'm a program associate at Fourth. My primary role here is assisting with education, outreach, and technical assistance for ODOT's Community Charging Rebates program. I'm joined here today by Alexandra and Jenna, and I'll let them both introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra Everett. I'm a program manager at Fourth, and I will be supporting with answering questions today. So as Brittany is going through the presentation, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. And we'll also have a live Q&A session at the end. So if you'd like to hold on to your questions till the end, that's good too.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenna Compton. I am a Transportation Electrification Financial Coordinator for ODOT. I will be helping answer your questions, and I'll also be helping process a lot of the projects that end up going through this program.
All right, I think I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again, everyone, for joining today. We're here to introduce the Community Charging Rebates program to you. Okay, so for some intro, this program is very well supported, meaning that both Fourth and ODOT are working together to help applicants with all of their questions. We are announcing the soft launch of the program. Keep in mind that there are aspects of the program that are subject to change. In this presentation, you'll get a brief overview of the necessary info and key pieces of the program. As we near the launch date in June of 2023, these sessions will become detailed and more technical and will help guide people through the application process. So those will be coming 2 sessions in June that will do a in-depth technical assistance portion. If anyone cannot stay for the entire session, that's okay. This will be recorded and we'll post it later today as well. All right. So for some background, electric vehicles are crucial to lowering our greenhouse gas emissions. With the increasing demand for electric vehicles, charging infrastructure is crucial. ODOT would like to use this rebate to benefit projects that are located in priority communities to fill the gaps in charging infrastructure throughout the state. Targeting priority communities is a key element of this program. Priority communities are defined as rural and disadvantaged communities. The intention of this is to give these communities a head start for the next EV wave. EV drivers are often parked for longer periods of time while they charge, which is why this program looks to place stations within business areas and shopping districts where people can stay to eat, explore, and shop. Before we dive deeper, I'd like to provide these images for those who are newer to EV charging. Level 1 chargers use a common outlet to source power, like the outlets you see in your home to plug in your microwave or your laptop. Then the standard port is what plugs into your electric vehicle. Level 1 chargers can be used for EV cars and e-bikes. Level 2 chargers are similar to the outlets that you use for your dryer. They're 240 volts. Again, the standard port plugs into your car. And level 2 chargers are significantly faster at charging your electric vehicle than level 1. Okay, so the program is intended to help reduce the costs of purchasing, installing, and maintaining EV charging for applicants and to place EV chargers in strategic locations. Rebates for this program are $4,250 to $5,500, or up to 75% of eligible costs. We'll go over this in more detail in following slides. The program will launch in June and close once funds are fully reserved, or in August, whichever comes first. Okay, and some more about the budget breakdown. ODOT will be separating the funds into two buckets: 30% for non-priority communities and 70% for priority communities. The rebates will be reserved on a first come, first served basis within each category. Overall, there is 1.75 million available for round one funding. And again, priority communities are defined as disadvantaged and rural communities. And I just want to note that a single entity can also not claim more than 150,000 in rebates per round. Okay, diving deeper into the program rebate amounts. Beginning on the first row, level 2 chargers that are considered public parking will receive 4,250 per port, or up to 75% of eligible costs. Multifamily housing level 2 chargers will receive 5,500 per port, or up to 75% of eligible costs. Multifamily housing can also receive a $750 rebate for the installation of level 1 chargers. ODOT recommends installing a level 1 charger in conjunction with a level 2 charger, as level 1 chargers take longer to charge. And I also want to note that applicants must install a minimum of 2 chargers, and there's a maximum of 8 chargers that are eligible for a rebate. Okay, here's a sneak peek at an interactive map that applicants will be able to use to determine if their project is located in a priority community. Applicants will type in the project site location, and the map will generate an answer stating if they are eligible as a disadvantaged or rural community. This information will be requested during the online application process. The map will be on ODOT's Community Charging Rebates website soon, so be sure to keep an eye out for that as well. Okay, to apply for the program, eligible applicants must be a business, nonprofit organization, or a state, local, or tribal government entity. They must also be the site owner or the authorized agent with a site agreement form. Here are also some examples of ideal site locations. If you would like to see a more extensive list, the ideal site host location document is on the Community Charging Rebates website, and it has more examples of places you can install charging under this program. The goal is to place chargers in public areas where people will spend time visiting while their cars are charging. The two eligible locations are publicly accessible parking sites and multifamily housing. Some examples of publicly accessible parking include tourist locations, retail stores, transit stations, and more. And for multifamily housing, some examples would be apartment buildings, townhouses, and condos. Okay, here are some costs that will be eligible under the CCR program. So some examples are charging equipment and installation, including labor and materials, engineering design costs, electric service upgrades, project signage, site lighting, network agreement costs, and maintenance contracts. So definitely a lot that you can use this funding on. Okay. And here is the pre-installation application process. Again, we'll go into greater details on application specifics in the meetings before the launch in June, so everyone feels more comfortable with the application process. First, the applicant will gather and submit all the necessary documentation. If there are any errors with the application, ODOT will send it back to the applicant with a note explaining what needs to be fixed. Once any errors are corrected, ODOT will review the application again and reserve the funding. The applicant then has 270 days or 9 months to install and submit the post installation portion. Once the post installation portion of the application is reviewed, and if everything is correct, it will be approved and a payment will then be dispersed. Okay. If you are submitting a project after installation of charging equipment has finished, you must submit an application within 90 days of the project's installation date. Installation also must occur after the program launch in June. And then again, it will go through the review process, and if everything is perfect, the project will then be approved for payment. Okay, so there are lots of resources on the CCR website to aid in this whole process, including the FAQ, site verification form, required documents checklist, EV Charging 1, or EV Charging 101 to help catch anyone up to speed if you have basic EV charging questions, and then the Transportation Electrification website. Coming soon will be the interactive map that I mentioned earlier, and a list of chargers that will qualify under this program. Okay, and if you have any questions after the presentation that we were not able to get to, please contact us at these following emails. You can also visit the CCR website or get updates on the Fourth and ODOT social media pages. Okay, and anyone can start submitting their questions in the chat now, and we'll begin answering those. There's a survey that we're going to be administering after the presentation, and it would be great if you could provide any feedback for that portion as well. And yeah, so we'll open it up to any questions in the chat.
Yeah, okay, so it looks like we got one question so far. And Karen asked, the rebate is for every 2 chargers installed, limit of 8. Yes, that is correct. There's a minimum of 2 chargers and a maximum of 8. Emily asked, does Fourth help install the EV chargers? This does not fall into Fourth scope. We can direct you to additional resources. For example, Pack Power helps their customers with site assessments. So we can direct you to resources, but unfortunately, we do not help install the chargers. Okay, follow-up question. When can we expect to see the list of qualified chargers? That will be a question for our ODOT representative. Jenna, do you have a rough timeline for us?
Yeah, so a rough estimate would be late April.
Okay, I see there's one more question. What are the eligible costs? Do local utility incentives count towards the match? Brittany, if you can direct us back to the eligible costs slide so we can review that. That is not a comprehensive list. The guidelines that will be released soon will have all the eligible costs. So some include the electric service upgrades, site lighting, maintenance, and network agreement contracts if those are paid in advance, as well as installation and labor and material costs. And then the second question of that, do a local utility incentive count toward the match? You can and are encouraged to stack the rebate with other incentives, including utility. And in the application, you will need to indicate if you're pursuing other funding as well. Jenna, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, you would want to apply for the utility incentive before applying for a rebate, because that's the way that the rebate is calculated. If you're receiving a utility incentive that cuts down on the cost, then your rebate may be calculated off of the 75%. cost calculation.
And then another question, if we apply to a federal EV grant program, will we still be eligible for the CCR program? I'm assuming you're asking about the NEVI program, and unfortunately, you cannot stack ODOT CCR program with the NEVI funding. These are great questions. Please keep them coming. We have plenty of time. I know there's a question, it looks like from Luis, but it's coming into a different chat that I'm not able to locate, so I'm working on it. Ah, I see. Regarding post-installation submissions, should installations be completed or initiated after June 2023 or both? They should all be initiated after June 2023, and we're still working on the official date. So we don't have a concrete date set yet, but it will be in June. And so for both options, it will need to be after the application is live. And then another question, are there some locations within Oregon that do not qualify? There are some, but they're fairly limited. And as Brittany mentioned, the interactive map, you will be able to put in the address and it will show you if that is a location that's not eligible. Um, okay, let's see. Do you know if there's an do you know if there's an Oregon Department of Revenue rebate as well as the federal program? I'm not sure. Jenna, do you know the answer to this question?
I'm not currently aware of any Oregon Department of Revenue rebates at this current time.
Thank you. Does that mean that the 70% number is calculated based on the total cost or the net cost after local utility rebates are applied? Great question. I'll forward that to Jenna as well.
So it's based on the total eligible cost after any other rebates are applied.
And then when will the application become live? It will be in June, and we do not have a set date as of right now. Any funding for the other 25% requirement for either public or private systems? Um, I'm assuming this question is asking how to cover the rest of the funding. So it will some of it will have to come from the applicant, and then other incentives such as from utilities. Anything else you'd like to add, Jenna or Brittany?
Yeah, so the rebate is intended, it's either the set cost for the rebate, the set amount, or it's the 75% of eligible costs. The additional 25%, if the rebate's calculated off of the 75%, then the additional 25% would have to come from the applicant.
Okay, we'll give you a couple of minutes to type up your questions if you have any remaining. As Brittany mentioned, once we end this info session, it will direct you to a survey. If you could take just a couple of minutes to fill that out, that would be so helpful for us. That feedback is directly helping us improve and make these sessions more informative. We will also follow up with everyone with additional resources through email and also send that link if you have a meeting you have to get to and you can't do it right after. And a follow-up question from Zach, is it a choice of a set amount or 75%? Jenna?
Yeah, so it's not a choice of either or, it's whichever is less.
Okay, and another question, does ODOT have any plans to support on-site charging for either employees or fleet vehicles for Oregon private businesses as the CCR would not apply? Great question. As you answered in the question, the fleets are not eligible under CCR, but I'm not sure if there's any additional plans. I'll let Jenna comment on that.
Yeah, so at this current time, I would like to do more research and see if we have any other options for you.
Is the 70% for rural communities a minimum only or a cap as well? I believe that is a minimum. Is that correct, Jenna?
Yeah, it's a minimum.
We want to provide as much funding to communities that have been historically left out from funding opportunities. So a lot of money is going to those communities. And as more folks are typing up their questions, um, wanted to let you know again to please fill out the survey. We're going to be attending different events for Earth Day. So if you're in the area and hear about us, please come and say hello. And if you have any colleagues or partners that you think might benefit from this information session or just getting in touch, but they're not able to attend during this time, please send our email to them, and we're happy to schedule one-on-one meetings as well and go over this information also. We're very flexible and want to get this information in front of as many folks as we can. Right, I'm not seeing any more questions come through, so I think we'll maybe do our final remarks that I've been peppering throughout as you all type. Thank you all so much for attending and for being such an engaged group. All the questions are fantastic. If you come up with any questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us. We're pretty fast with our responses. And like I mentioned, we'll also follow up with an email with a link to the webinar and also additional resources. Just checking final time for questions. And it looks like we're all good. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time. And as I mentioned, if you have any partners, colleagues, get them in touch with us as well. Thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.